And now, broadcasting from deep behind enemy lines in the occupied territory of the Socialist Republic of California, your host, former California State Assemblyman and Governor candidate, Tim Donnelly.
Welcome to another edition of Radio Free California Network. I am your host, Tim Donnelly. Yes, I am a former California State Assemblyman. That means I know what it's like on the inside. And not only did I work to defend freedom from within that building, but I'm still doing it on a daily basis. I will never forget the day that I rolled up to the Capitol in a truck and they let me in. I didn't even have my ID at the time. We got there early and they said, just give them your name. So I told them my name and they just let the gate up, in that basement that's all guarded by the CHP and has all kinds of security. And as soon as that gate went up, I said, they let the wrong guy in the building. What were you going to say?
Oh, I wouldn't know, but I haven't been to the Capitol yet.
Oh, well, that's all going to change.
Tomorrow, actually.
Because we are going to be rolling into town, the Tim Donnelly Show, not along with, but we are going to be on one of the buses in the caravan of buses and caravan of cars and citizens from all over the state who are going to descend on the Capitol for a rally defending freedom and defending liberty. It's a little bit of deja vu for me because the only other time I had ever been to Sacramento prior to being elected was to speak on the steps. It was actually the west steps of the Capitol as the leader of the largest Minuteman group in the state of California. And I gave a speech. And none of the politicians came out. And we were railing against the building. Now I know why. Because we did it like on Friday afternoon when they're all gone. You have to do these things on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday because most Fridays they're not there. But, unless you've been on the inside, you probably wouldn't even know that. There is other breaking news. I don't know if you saw the headline, but Jerry Brown didn't take a shower. Jerry Brown thought it was appropriate to announce to the world, I didn't take a shower this morning. I mean, the guy's living up to his image as a bohemian. I don't know, is he smoking pot in the Capitol again? Now, I don't know if it's, if that's illegal anymore. Maybe he's got one of those medical marijuana cards. Maybe he just told him he doesn't feel good today. And I don't know. I can't believe this guy is the governor of the state of California. And he thinks that by saying, I didn't take a shower today, that he's somehow leading. Leading would have been, Jerry, just a thought. Leading would have been building the dams on a fast-track schedule instead of building high-speed rail. Using your political capital for the benefit of all Californians rather than just for your little environmental buddies and of course the contractors who paid you off with a $27,000 contribution to your campaign. Maybe you could have thought about those of us who live and breathe and work and make this state work. Maybe you could have thought about Sylvia Lopez and all of the farm workers who can't take a shower instead of your little insulting joke of a comment. I mean, it makes it look like California has a complete dunce leading the state.
What's a dunce?
Oh my gosh.
Does it go along with my word dank?
No, a dunce is someone who is just mentally not up to par. You know, he's an idiot. He's moonbeam. He's He's a fool. I guess a fool would probably be a better term for it, because there's what's called a dunce cap, which you put on a fool. And he's a fool. I mean, he's cut back on his drinking water. He probably even uses less water in his coffee. Maybe he probably drinks tea. Maybe he could use some recycled water. You know, the kind they put out on the golf courses that hasn't quite been actually cleaned up. I mean, is that what he's going to be advocating next? Come on, give me a break. But speaking of bizarre instances, I went to the bank to make a deposit, and an individual got out of his Prius right in front of me. And I was on the phone, and I had the air conditioning going because it's hot. Thank you, Al Gore, by the way, for the global warming, because it was global cooling earlier in the week. Now it's global warming. But this guy had a white T-shirt on that said, "Burning fossil fuels causes global warming." And just looking at him with his long pull-up black socks and his tennis shoes and his shorts and his spindly white legs. And look, I have nothing against white legs, okay? I have translucent legs. At least I will until sometime in the midsummer. But he also, he just looked the part. He looked like someone who could be led around by the nose, because you have to really have a lot of faith in government to believe the whole global warming nonsense. And I will be posting the picture I took. It was just, I couldn't resist. It was absolutely priceless, because nobody is going to follow this guy down his pathway, driving around in his silver Prii, and want to be him. It just isn't going to happen. But I'll get into more of that. And also, we're going to play you a segment next, right after this break, of the segment that you were all searching for all last week. And we did finally get a winner, Denise from Victorville. So stay tuned. 323-746-TALK is our number. Radio Free California will return right after these breaks. Or this break, these messages. I just want to defend my friend Loretta Sanchez. That chick, she is one hot mama. And when she does that war cry, she usually does it right after. Oh, man, there's nothing in the world like making Loretta cry. You know what? I support Kamala Harris for U.S. Senate. I don't know about that Loretta Sanchez chick. She's out there doing that war cry. I thought she kept that stuff in the bedroom. Yeah, Loretta, you do it like this. Whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah, I know. Come on, Loretta, baby. Now you got me all red. No, not red skin. I just red in the face. Because of you and millions like you who raise their voices and their ire at the California legislature, the drunk legislators are now going to have to pay for their own cabs.
Woohoo!
Yeah. They might even have to keep Uber and Lyft alive just so they're available for their late night escapades. So that's it's chalk one up for the people. And we're also going to chalk up a victory for you, because you guys, the audience of the Tim Donnelly Show, you proved to me that A, you pay attention, and B, you are extremely intelligent. We had all kinds of and all manner of really intelligent answers to the question that we asked, the riddle. And ultimately, it was Diane of Victorville, who got it right. And here is the segment.
Denise.
Denise. Yeah, look at me. What a dunce. Not Denise, me. All right, so here is the segment that we played back on May 13th. And just listen to it, and then we'll get your comments afterwards. Back in California, insanity just seems to be the rule rather than the exception. And I was going through the Meanwhile in California stack, which is not very green, Bethany. I think you killed too many trees printing out all this stuff on California.
I think I'll just have to talk to my boss about that one.
Oh, you mean Jerry Brown?
Hold up. Jerry Brown is not my boss.
Good. I'm glad to know that. It's just, it's shocking how offensive our government is to freedom. They declare war on freedom. We got Obama declaring war on the left over this trade deal. We've got Obama and de Blasio trying to out Obama, and he's declaring war on poverty, even though he doesn't know that we've been at war with poverty for 50 years. We're going to get into that later on. But in California, they've declared war on businesses. So, especially if the business doesn't comply and has figured out a way to sort of reinvent an entire industry. So there's two things that really cost a lot more than they should. Hotels and taxis. If you've ever ridden in a taxi cab, it's like you're being robbed. Every 15 seconds, it goes cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. You have no control. You have no idea what the price is going to be. And you're never going to get an answer if you ask.
No, because they don't speak English.
Right.
And if you say that you want them to go a different route, they just say,
exactly.
and keep
All
driving
of us
whichever way they're going.
Selective hearing. But then, out of the blue, in this technologically progressive state, Uber and Lyft and all these others appeared and offered you a choice. And you know what? I'm in favor of freedom. I like having choices. I during my campaign, I had never ridden Uber. I don't live in a place when I want to go somewhere and my car isn't working or isn't home or whatever. One of the kids is out driving around. I walk through the woods. I don't live in a city. But when I was running my campaign, found myself in a city, and then all of a sudden the car was broken down. It wouldn't start. And we called Uber. One of my staffers called Uber. They came and picked me up like that. And they had a, excuse me. They had a cold drink for me. They played classical music. It was amazing. It was clean. It was a brand new car. It was a nicer car than I had.
Tim, I was an Uber driver when I lived in San Diego.
Oh, get out.
I swear.
Well, you weren't my Uber driver because it was a male, but it was such a convenient and amazing thing. So what does California do? And now we have this with what's called Airbnb, and there's another version of it. What is the name here? Well, anyway, but Airbnb, if you don't know what that is where you can essentially book a private home or an apartment or just a room in the home over the internet, where people exchange them, they rent them. I mean, it's just this industry that's just blossomed up out of nothing. And now you don't have to deal with, when you go to a hotel, it's like, oh my gosh, do we have any cash to give a tip to the bellboy? I start feeling guilty before we even get there. And usually I don't have the cash to tip anybody. And you start worrying about all these different things Whereas wouldn't it be nice to just show up and be able to rent a room from an individual and not have the government make money off you? And that's what individuals have been doing. It's a private transaction. And of course, now the California legislature, they saw something that wouldn't comply with all their rules and regulations. And so the taxi cab industry went after Uber. And that even happened while I was still in there, and they tried to fend that off, but they're hobbling around now, and they're hoping to put Uber to death and Lyft to death, all so that you are forced to take a taxi cab with somebody who doesn't speak English and pay an outrageous amount and be in a dirty, smelly, old pile of junk. And of course, they say that they're killing Uber and these other things for your safety. But where's their argument on you wanting to stay in somebody's apartment or a room in their home? You know, how do they know you aren't just friends or family with them? They're pushing a bill. There's a state senator, Mike McGuire, somewhere out of the Bay Area, and he's wants the website to force them to report every single transaction that is done through their website so that the local cities and counties can go after them for money. Now think about that. That's ludicrous. I wish these guys up there would actually police themselves. I got a radical idea for you Marxist progressives that pretend to be Democrats. It's a crazy idea. I know maybe people are going to be outraged, but how about reining in your members who trade guns to Muslim terrorists in exchange for campaign contributions? How about you work on that before you try to kill an industry that isn't hurting anybody? How about you go after your own corrupt cronies who break law after law after law after law after law because they can? How about you start paying attention to that before you start telling me what to do and what I can and can't do in the privacy of my or somebody else's home? I mean, this is ludicrous. I don't even know if I can get into this story on pensions. There's another, but let me just tell you, the California school budgets, you want to know why they don't have the money for art programs and music programs and after-school programs and sports? Because they are tripling the amount. The teachers' union is tripling the amount that is being taken. It's not the union. They pushed for it, but it's CalSTRS is saying every district has to give us 9% instead of 3.8. So it's virtually tripling the amount that is stolen away from the kids to put toward teachers' pensions. You wonder why there isn't enough money to take care of the kids in the classroom. It's because the teachers' unions are so powerful that they actually have the ability to steal from your kids' budget. And then there's another headline. Jerry Brown is going to spend the surplus funds on schools. And, you know, I didn't even read the article because there's no point. I read the headline, and it's Jerry Brown's going to spend the surplus. Jerry Brown is going to spend the surplus. Why doesn't he give it back to the people he stole it from? The people who work for a living. Oh, and of course, the last headline. The legislature is going to get a pay raise. In spite of chasing business after business after business. We had Megan Barth on yesterday who talked about why she's leaving California. We watched Toyota. We watched so many businesses leave here. I mean, you can't even bribe Tesla to stay here and make cars and batteries and all this other stuff. But we're going to be forced to pay the legislators more. Meanwhile, in California, I just feel like it's an alternate universe. I couldn't have said it better myself. You know, that one headline that we're going to give the people who created and turned one of the greatest states in the union into a disaster area, a government-created disaster area, and we're going to give them a pay raise. Hey, congratulations to Denise of Victorville. 323-746-TALK is our number. We'll be right back with John Nolte after the break. If you've been listening long to the Tim Donnelly Show, you know that we talk constantly about defending freedom and about defending our natural inalienable rights. The Firearms Policy Coalition is a partner of the Tim Donnelly Show. But more than that, they're on the front lines every day in Sacramento and all across the state, in the courts, defending your Second Amendment right. That is a natural right that the government merely acknowledged in the Second Amendment. If you value your freedom, then you need to join Firearms Policy Coalition. Become a member. I'm a member, and I'm happy to support an organization that is doing such an incredible job. Go to joinfpc.org. The Tim Donnelly Show sent you. Or go to timdonnellyshow.com and click on the FPC link to make it easy. But whatever you do, join today. FPC.org. And we got all kinds of stuff coming up on the Tim Donnelly Show today. Later on, we're going to be talking with Heather Hawks about the rally and whether or not there's room on the bus for you. And the good news is I believe there is. There was as of 10:30 this morning, but we'll get an update. And also, we're going to have Chuck Reed, former mayor of San Jose, who is working on a very interesting pension reform measure that could transform California, at least going forward. It is very controversial, but it is very well thought out, and you're definitely going to want to know about it. Anyway, I will leave that for that hour. We're also going to talk about, I don't know if you saw this this article, but there's actually, we don't often talk about celebrities that are not necessarily, well, that aren't wading into the political pool. But J-Lo is being sued. How do we say this? Because of her famous backside. Is this called a booty suit? I don't know, but it is certainly something that will amuse you. So she did a concert in Morocco, and if you know J-Lo, risque clothing, provocative dancing, all of those things are going to be featured. That's what she's known for. And so the idea that she would be sued, and some have even called for the resignation of the Moroccan communication minister, Mustafa al-Khalafi, for allowing the broadcast. What was one minister responded on Twitter saying, what was broadcast is unacceptable and goes against broadcasting law. What they don't tell you is that this is a heavily Muslim country in which women are expected to be completely covered. So why, this is the part I don't get. You're going to let J-Lo on TV and you expect her to be completely covered? I mean, that just doesn't make any sense. I don't get it.
I feel like upon booking this concert, they would have gone over some rules or something.
Yeah.
Why?
It's hard to believe in the modern world with communication. But you know what? I think there are huge sections of the world. Not just what I think, but what I know. But they're trying to do it here. The government just got control of the internet, and they're looking to completely shut down. They want to shut down sites in the United States where bloggers talk about guns. Just talk about them. Where they talk about specifically how to build things. And for instance, you can take an AR and you can build it from scratch. And the reason a lot of people do that is because they don't want the government to, even know they have a gun. But they comply with the law. They build the whole thing. And they want to shut down even the discussion of anything to do with that. And I think but in these other countries, the government already has control. They control everything down to what you wear. See, you couldn't go out in public dressed like a normal American woman. So why they would even entertain, and by the way, the people loved her. The public there, the crowd was excited and ecstatic to have J-Lo there.
I'm sure it's stuff they've never seen before.
Well, I'm not even going to touch that. But at any rate, I just couldn't believe this was a headline. In this day and age, it's inconceivable and really quite shocking. But there was another story out of Chicago. This one I had to read twice because I couldn't believe the comments. Headline: Reverend Michael Flager, NRA will pay for the murder of Chicago children. And this is an article by A.W.R. Hawkins on June 6th. Reverend Michael Flager listed recent shootings in heavily gun-controlled Chicago. Note, I'm using air quotes here, gun-controlled Chicago. Then said, the NRA will pay for the murder of our children. What did the NRA have to do with it? You shouldn't even have guns there unless they're bought illegally. He was joined by the Reverend Jesse Jackson and the Brady Campaign to Prevent Gun Violence, President Dan Gross. Flager, Jackson, and Gross rallied outside of Chuck's gun shop, where Jackson recently rallied for the ban of guns already. So they were rallying for the ban of guns that are already banned. You get that? That's the part. Don't let any facts get in the way of your agenda. But then it gets even better. Flager began his speech at the rally by pointing out that 10 persons were shot and 3 were killed on the night of June 5th alone. He then said, I'm not a gun grabber. I'm a life lover. Well, he sure as hell ain't a liberty lover. After which he pointed to Chuck's gun shop and said, and I love life more than the death they are perpetuating. I wish somebody could have rolled up with a huge banner and said, newsflash, gun grabbers. But the people who were shooting people in the streets, otherwise known as criminals, that's AKA, for those of you planning to vote for either Jeb Bush or Hillary Clinton, criminals. don't buy their guns at Chuck's gun store because they get a background check and they have the government has their fingerprints. They buy their guns out of a trunk of a car. They buy them illegally. He continued, I'm just tired. I'm tired of the NRA. He's tired of them because they're so damn effective. Tired of them prostituting themselves and buying politicians in this country as if the left hasn't bought almost every other politician in this country. I'm tired of gun manufacturers and John Riggio from Chuck's gun shop making money off the blood running down our streets. Now, it made me look back at this point to see if this was Reverend Jesse Jackson who makes his money off blood running down the streets. Well, they live in gated communities where there are no gun shops like Chuck's. These guys just make stuff up out of thin air. There are gun stores everywhere except where the liberals ban them because the only difference is you might have a higher end gun shop, maybe in a nicer part of town. I mean, look, there's a difference between going into Bass Pro Shop and Chuck's Guns. For one, you're going to pay more, but it's an experience, okay? But the idea that somehow that gun shops are responsible, in most of the affluent community, there's more guns than people. Hello? I'm tired of the funerals of babies while the NRA, the manufacturers, and Chuck's gun shop run to the bank, making profits off death. Plagar said, we need to make gun ownership responsible. We need to title guns like cars. He ended the speech by calling out the NRA specifically, saying, at the end of the day, you can argue with us, you can call us names, but you got to deal with God. And the blood of our children is on your hands, and you will pay for the murder of our children. Well, no, Reverend Michael Flager, the blood is not on the hands of the NRA. The blood is not on the hands of law-abiding gun owners. The blood is on the hands of the murderers, of those who took an instrument that can be used to save life, that can be used to protect life, that can be used to protect you from abusive individuals or abusive governments or abusive anyone, and they used it for murder. They used it for evil. And it's time that we hold individuals responsible. And by the way, if you want to get rid of murders in your community, maybe you ought to rethink the whole gun control thing, because how's that working out for you? Last time I checked, the cities like Baltimore, like Chicago, and others that are controlled by Marxist progressives like yourselves have the most murders per capita. Maybe you ought to get some guns in the hands of the law-abiding so they can defend their lives, their freedom, and their families from the thugs in the street that you're protecting. 323-746-TALK. We'll take your calls when we get back. Hey, you are tuned to the Radio Free California Network, and we are talking about everything that is worth discussing in California today. And we got Gary on the line from North Dakota, wants to weigh in on my comments on gun control before the break. Hey, Gary, welcome to the Tim Donnelly Show.
Well, thank you, Tim. Nice calling in to speak to you here. I haven't called for a couple of weeks, but anyway, you know, we, up in our state, we don't really have much gun control. It's just with the federal level, and we don't even have to lock our doors, really. The bad guys are intimidated. They don't want to get shot themselves. They respect their own life. And you were talking about these. What was that guy's name you were talking about that in Chicago?
Well, I think he is. His name is Reverend Michael Felger, and I think he is modeling himself after Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson.
Sure. I was just wondering if these guys are armed themselves, or have armed bodyguards.
Anybody who has a high profile that doesn't arm themselves or have bodyguards is nuts.
I get into debates. I got into some debates on Facebook, even with a couple of anti-gun celebrities. And what ends the conversation is I ask them, do you have armed bodyguards, or are you armed yourself to protect yourself? And the conversation is over. Don't talk about it anymore. So,
well, yeah, I was reading a story over the weekend, and it was funny because it was shared like 5,000 times on Facebook, and it was I believe it was on the Blaze, and it was about a list of 10 celebrities that would surprise you that are armed or that support gun rights. And the number one was not Oprah, Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah, but what's so strange, how come she supports a president that doesn't believe in that? That's so strange about that.
Well,
probably all his other policies, but still.
Yeah, but James Earl Jones was one of them. So was Angelina Jolie, and she doesn't surprise me as much because John Voight is her dad, and John Voight is extremely conservative. So, as a parent, your kids may rebel against a lot of what you teach them, but some of it sticks. Brad Pitt is also pro-gun, and they said, look, we have guns at our house. If you break in and try to harm our kids, we're going to shoot you, and we're not going to feel bad about it. And that's a place where Americans can come together and say, hey, look, we're going to defend our lives and our property and our freedom, and so it's probably not a good idea for you to come in. And that's why creating these gun-free school zones is so devastating and putting our kids' lives at risk. By
right. Well, look at places like the White House. I mean, that's like a fortress there. If somebody's planning to harm the president,
unless you have a drone,
they wouldn't get close enough.
Unless you have a drone, or you can hop the fence and carry a knife in fast enough. But no, you're right. But that they have a lot of guns there. I don't know that they have that much security. I don't think Obama takes anything seriously.
I don't think he does either. But they should be armed. We need to protect our leaders. But,
well, I would take exception to that. I think that every American deserves the same level of protection. That means the government must respect the Second Amendment. They must respect the right of the citizens to defend themselves. Because look, the cops can't protect you. I mean, if you live in Baltimore right now, you figured it out. If the cops follow every rule they have, and they're doing that now, that means they're not being proactive. They're not stopping people who look suspicious. They're not profiling behavior. And guess what? People are dying by the dozen it seems like every weekend.
That's true. That's why I said the Second Amendment is so important. It's probably more important now than it was 20 years ago, but it's always going to be important because there's always going to be a threat, That's just the way it is,
Well, it was interesting on Twitter the other day. I saw that Montel Williams had made a comment challenging Vince Vaughn to a debate over guns in schools, and he was carrying on about how incredible it was to look into the eyes of the children who had survived the attacks and how they would never support guns in the schools. You know what? That decision needs to be made by their parents and their school district, and not by a state government that bans it outright. Even in California, even in a place that you would think is as crazy as California, the 1995 Gun-Free School Zone Act acknowledged the right of teachers who have a CCW to not be denied their Second Amendment rights simply because they're at work. And if they were able to carry, and all they need is a signature right now of a superintendent, except that they're pushing through a bill now to block everyone and anyone from carrying on campus. And all they're going to do is they are going to guarantee that the next mass shooting on a schoolyard or in a school building in California is going to be unbelievable numbers, because nobody's going to be armed that can fight back.
That's right. I agree with you 100% on that.
Well, Gary, thanks for calling in, and thanks
welcome.
for sharing your experience up there in North Dakota. We'll try to bring some of that common sense here to California.
Okay.
And we will always spread the truth on the Radio Free California Network. And, you know, why is common sense so rare, especially in a state as great as California? 323-746-TALK. We will be talking with Heather Hawks about SB 277, the rally, and how many spots are available on buses. So get out your pen and paper and don't touch that dial.
Don't you think it's about time you treat yourself or someone you love to something very special? Well, Ozell Jewelers, the finest jewelry store in the high desert, is known throughout the high desert for having the largest variety of fine-looking jewelry and gifts for every special occasion. Ozell custom designs and manufactures their own jewelry, so you'll be able to find exclusive, one-of-a-kind, stunning styles you won't find anywhere else in Southern California. If you're looking for fine jewelry at unbeatable prices, Ozell Jewelers is the place to go. Show appreciation to that special person in your life with something special to cherish forever. Ozell Jewelers, voted best jewelers in the high desert by the Daily Press regularly for years. Ozell Jewelers has been putting smiles on high desert faces for over 30 years. Ozell Jewelers in Rancho Cucamonga, Palm Desert, and Amargosa Road by Red Lobster in Victorville. Ozell Jewelers.
If you are just tuning in to the Radio Free California Network, you are lucky. Because whatever you missed, you can catch up online. TimDonnellyShow.com. It's a great way to find past shows, great way to connect with us on Facebook and Twitter. And we also put up some pretty cool articles once in a while. So you definitely want to check back there at least once a day. I don't know if you saw this headline, but I just have to laugh. I'll get into it more later, but the headline, never mind Hillary's scandals, let's talk about Marco Rubio's wife's driving habits. Yeah, that's your leftist media, always talking about the important things. But why don't we actually go to the Radio Free California Newsmaker line and talk to someone about something important? We're going to welcome Heather Hawks of the California Coalition for Health Choice back to the show. Heather, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Hey, you're up in Sacramento. You flew up a day early.
I did, yep.
Which means you don't get to ride the bus with us.
No, I don't.
Well, you know what? You are going to miss an experience, because I have a feeling that we're going to bond, because there's going to be 55 of us piled in there, cruising up the 5 freeway with all of its potholes. Thank you, Jerry Brown. And lots of wonderful freedom-loving Californians, so it should definitely be a lot of fun, and I expect to make new friends. But tell us what's going on. You've got buses coming up. Some of you have been lobbying today. What's the lay of the land right now in Sacramento?
I'm going to be honest, it's intense up here. We've had a lot of lobbying meetings. We are seeing groups from our side, from the opposition, come out of meetings as we go in, and then we see more of us on our side going in as we leave. And so a lot of these assembly folks are in meeting after meeting with opposition, which is great. And then at the same time, we know that supporters of the bill are finally starting to speak out and be present at some of the meetings as well. So we're seeing it go both ways.
Okay. Now, are you seeing more paid lobbyists for the pro SB 277?
That's all we've seen.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Whereas the people are with you. The people are against this by and large.
Yes, and they brought in a stack of letters. And they said, here's a stack of letters from all Californians that support SB 277. And it was this, it was a relatively thick stack. And what we do is we bring letters only from the constituents. And
hold on. Let me just help you out here. Since I used to work in one of those offices, let me tell you what the stack of letters is. It isn't a whole bunch of Californians who woke up one day and said, oh, let's go force our neighbors to be vaccinated. It's a paid effort where they are solicited and they touch a button on their computer in response to an email, and next thing you know, the every assembly member who's on a certain committee or in the entire legislature in terms of a relevant upcoming vote will receive a faxed letter that is not personally handwritten, even though it might have somebody's name attached to it. They're generally not personally signed. That's what the vast majority of those kinds of communications are. They're just bulk. They're kind of like junk mail, like you get in your email and then you throw out.
Right. And as I said, they had one stack for the whole state. We have a stack almost as big for each assembly person.
And what was their reaction?
It depends on the person. Some of them, you really see a strong reaction. You really see some of the assembly folks go, well, these are constituents. And we say, yes, look, if you look at this portion of the letter, you can look at their address and you can see they're all constituents. Here's a constituent petition with 700 signatures. These are your constituents who, and so we're showing them very specifically and very clearly their constituents who have a position on this bill. Some of them are a little more nonchalant about it, but it doesn't matter. We still take the letters and the petitions with us because we feel that's an important indicator of where their constituents land on the issue.
Well, absolutely. And I've heard rumblings that a lot of since the people who control our state are Democrats, their political people have told them, well, make this about Republican Democrat. Say that it's just, a partisan issue. But the truth is much different. You have probably an even split or maybe even more Democrats than Republicans that actually oppose this bill.
Yes.
And how do they react when you tell them that?
Bipartisan. Most of the time, they don't. There have only been a few people that we've met with that have sort of sat back and said, well, it's bipartisan. And so then we sort of take a more, we always try to take an individualized approach anyway. But in the general public, when they say it's bipartisan, it's completely different than having a conversation with someone who's in the public as well. Democrats support it, Republicans oppose it. You have a different kind of conversation than you do with an assembly member themselves who has been kind of coached that this is a party issue and you just go with the party,
Right. Well, which is nonsense anyway. Anybody who would vote like that, why don't we just put a robot in there if you're just going to vote party line and never think about anything? I mean, that's just ludicrous. But if you're just tuning in, we're talking with Heather Hawks of the California Coalition for Health Choice, who is up at the Capitol. She's been lobbying all day, and Heather, what else have you picked up there? I mean, any other news, any indication as to whether or not people are shifting over toward our side?
We're seeing shifts in both directions. Honestly, we are seeing people, assembly folks who have been no's, who are now saying, well, I think it's okay. And we're working very hard to lobby them. And then we are seeing people go, wow, I'm just really starting to feel very concerned about this legislation. So we're just going to keep doing what we do, keep that laser focus and keep going. And people are starting to show up. Hotels, you're seeing some people come into the hotels and get ready tomorrow, scoping out the area. So there's already people funneling up here. It's going to be really an exciting event for sure.
Well, and of course, you and your group have organized buses that are leaving this evening. Yes. Evening is sort of an inaccurate word. They're leaving at twilight. 10:30 from the Redlands Walmart, 11 from the Riverside location, and then if you're in Rancho Cucamonga, it is midnight. And I'm sure that those times, there has to be a little bit of latitude. You need to get there on time, but if the bus is late, just be patient. Tell us, do you have any room left? How do people find you? Give us some details, in case there are listeners who say, hey, I've decided at the last minute, I want to get on a bus tonight. I want to be in Sacramento tomorrow morning early, and I want to be at that rally and make my voice heard.
Yes, absolutely. We actually went from 3 buses to 4 because we had so much overflow. So we do have a few spaces left on each bus. We right now have a Los Angeles bus, an Orange County bus, San Diego bus, and an Inland Empire bus. My email address is cchcrally@gmail.com. Absolutely reach out to me if you want to get on board, and we'll get you on a bus. We've got a few seats, like I said, just a few seats on each bus, but we've got room. So
okay, and that is CCHC Rally. So that's California Coalition for Health Choice. So cchcrally@gmail.com. We still have a link up at timdonnellyshow.com. Just click on it. The email is there, and you can look. There's no point in doing anything but making direct contact with Heather, because that's the only way you're going to get one of these seats. And look, the ask is a $20 donation per seat. Now, do people have to go to that GoFundMe, or can they just pay you guys directly?
We ask that people use the GoFundMe, but they don't have to. If they have a $20 bill and they don't have time to do the online stuff because they're getting ready last minute, it's fine. We're a grassroots. We will make anything work to make it work for the people. That's absolutely fine. And
you guys funded these things yourselves.
Yes, we did.
I mean, you didn't have some
money, and
you didn't have some George Soros coming out and writing you a big fat check. You had moms giving up grocery money. You had dads that were giving up their maybe baseball money on the weekends to go to a game or something. But people are making sacrifices to be there. I mean, this is really important.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I want to thank you for everything that you're doing, Heather. We will see you tomorrow, and hopefully we will catch up with you tomorrow. We're going to do a live broadcast from up in Sacramento. I know you'll be busy, but if you are able to make a few moments for us to kind of give us a play-by-play afterwards, we would love to hear from you. That is Heather Hawks, California Coalition for Health Choice. And if you want to get on that bus, send her an email at chcrally@gmail.com. Thanks for coming on, Heather.
Thanks so much, Tim.
Godspeed. Hey, 323-746-TALK is how you get a hold of us. We'll take your calls and much, much more coming up after the break. I I just want to defend my friend Loretta Sanchez. That chick, she is one hot mama. And when she does that war cry, she usually does it right after. Oh man, there's nothing in the world like making Loretta cry. You know what? I support Kamala Harris for U.S. Senate. I don't know about that Loretta Sanchez chick. She's out there doing that war cry. I thought she kept that stuff in the bedroom. Yeah, Loretta, you do it like this. Whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah, I know. Come on, Loretta, baby. Now you got me all red. No, not red skin. I just red in the face. We got a lot more coming up on the Radio Free California Network. We're going to be talking with former San Jose Mayor Chuck Reed, who, by the way, is a Democrat. Are you starting to get the sense of how bipartisan this show is? But not bipartisan in a way of selling out and turning into a weenie. We're talking about bipartisanship where you actually unite around principles and common sense. And Chuck Reed, Democrat mayor, former mayor of San Jose, has been one of the most ardent, outspoken critics of the fiscal insanity that has been committed in California in order to appease the public sector unions. And he is leading the charge to do something about it. So you don't want to miss that segment. But we are going to, I wish I could say meanwhile in California, but it happened in Texas. There was a United States Border Patrol chopper that was fired upon from Mexico, from the drug cartels, presumably. I assume it wasn't the Mexican government, but you never know. And then again, the Mexican government is so infiltrated with corrupt individuals, and most of the most powerful and prominent leaders are owned and controlled by the cartels. The media is owned and controlled by the cartels. Look, if you speak out and tell the truth about what they're doing and you get on their radar screen, they kill you, and or they kill your entire family right in front of you, and then they kill you. So the fact that they would shoot across the border and force an emergency landing of a U.S. Customs and Border Protection chopper in Laredo, Texas is definitely noteworthy, and it's newsworthy. And you know, you would think, wouldn't you think that the President of the United States might comment on that?
Am I surprised that he didn't?
Well, I put this up on my Facebook page over the weekend, and I was astounded at how offended some of the leftists are and some of Obama's defenders. Because all I said was, surprise, surprise, Obama didn't comment on it. And I put the headline that was on the Breitbart article, which was, war breaks out with Mexico. That was their headline, not mine. But I thought it's a very provocative statement, because what is an act of war but firing on an official unit representing and wearing the flag of the United States government? I mean, if your flag means anything, then you defend it. And there were a number of people, one individual who wrote, he said, surprise, surprise, you idiots on the right are all criticizing the president. Why don't you give him a break? Shouldn't he take a little time to research and find out what happened before he commented? And so I wrote back and I said, exactly. Don't you think the President of the United States should have taken a moment, taken a breather, taken a pause before he commented about Ferguson, before he commented about that incident with Trayvon Martin, before he commented about the professor who got arrested trying to break into his own home? I mean, don't you think that when you are the most powerful and significant leader in the free world, that you should limit your reactions and your comments to things of national interest or in the national interest. Well, guess what? When the men and women who serve in law enforcement agencies on the federal level, like the Border Patrol, like Customs, like ICE, when they get fired upon, they'd like to know you got their back. And, you know, you could say something, you could investigate. It takes 5 minutes to call up the sector chief. Guess what? I guarantee you, if the President of the United States calls the sector chief, he'll answer the phone, or somebody will get him on the phone damn quick. It might take 4 or 5 minutes, but it's your duty. A, to find out what happened, and then B, to have some kind of an official statement and a reaction. And that official statement should defend the interest of this country. And the fact that the drug cartels are out of control and they have killed Americans on our soil. And now they're brave enough, they're brazen enough to take shots at Border Patrol and at our helicopters across the border, which is going to inevitably lead to them being more and more embrazened and emboldened. And agents will pay with their lives. So it's your duty, Mr. Commander-in-Chief, to have a response. It's your duty to tell the Mexican government publicly, hey, rein in the guys that own you. Rein in your own homegrown terrorists, because if you don't, we're going to rain down hellfire missiles, whether you like it or not, and we're going to clean out the drug cartels along the border that are endangering our people. So deal with it, or we will, and we'll give you 36 hours or 48 hours or whatever it is. That's what a president does. That's what a leader does. Oh, yeah, that's right. We got a community organizer. All he cares about is when a white cop touches a black kid. Then it's a national incident. Then it's worthy of his attention. Who cares if sworn officers who have sworn an oath to defend this country and the Constitution thereof take rounds, and they're probably 50 caliber rounds. Those guys don't mess around. I mean, our government sold them half the guns they have with the Fast and Furious pro. Oh yeah, thanks a lot, Eric Holder. Thanks a lot, Barack Obama. God, the more I think about this, the more pissed off I get. 323-746-TALK. 323-746-8255. If this bothers you as much as it bothers me, we'll take your calls after the break. Hey, if you like shooting as much as I do, you've probably been to a lot of ranges. Unless you visited Burro Canyon Shooting Park, you've never seen anything like it. On the way there, you'll find yourself taking pictures as you traverse the majestic Azusa Canyon and wind your way up into the Angeles National Forest. With over 600 acres, including 19 private ranges, there's something for everyone. There's rifle and pistol ranges for beginners, right up to advanced shooters. And there's plenty of spaces to shoot sporting clay. You can make a family day of it, or you can bring a group for team building exercises. Bring a picnic lunch. On the weekends, they provide lunch. And don't worry, they always have ammo in case you forget yours or run out. One thing I can guarantee is that once you visited my friends at Burro Canyon Shooting Park, you'll be hooked and you'll keep coming back. BurroCanyon.com is their website, or call them at 626-910-1344. 626-910-1344. you care about defending freedom, you came to the right place. This is the Radio Free California Network. I am your host, former California State Assemblyman Tim Donnelly, and we are going to be joining the caravan. I think we got to call these freedom buses. The caravan of freedom lovers. Or maybe we could call them the Liberty Express. Well, whatever you want to call it, if you care about keeping the government from taking away the last little bit of control that you had when it came to your child's health, at least as far as vaccines. And the ironic thing is a lot of the people going to the rally vaccinate their children. I would say a large percentage. But we're going there to stand up for freedom. We're going there to stand up for the right to choose. We're going to protect Californians' choice from the pro-choice crowd. Now, you explain that to me. How is it that the pro-choice crowd, the crowd that loudly and proudly proclaims every chance they get that pro-choice means what? The right to kill your baby? I mean, the right to abortion? Is that it? Is that all that it means? Abortion is legal. But they're not pro-choice because the so-called pro-choice crowd has decided that they want to force those who really truly offer a choice, the pregnancy alternative centers that are privately funded, they want to put them out of business. They want to force them to promote abortion because guess what? I just read a headline, and it's good news. Abortion is at a 15-year low in America. And I don't really care what side you come down to on it because I am an American who believes in liberty. Period. And I am pro-life, and I believe in supporting pregnancy alternative centers to promote my own personal social or personal values or social values, whatever you want to call them. It doesn't really matter what you call them. It does matter how you promote your values. And the left likes to extinguish choice. They like to control. They like to wipe out any alternative. And they have committed a full-blown assault. We had Tricia Lewis on from the New Life Sierra Pregnancy Alternative Center up in the Sacramento area talking about that horrible bill. I mean, some have taken to calling it a bully bill because it's what it is. And of course, the leftists, the Marxists, all claim that we have to pass hundreds of laws every year to protect from bullying. Well, what the hell? How about protecting me? How about protecting you from being bullied by a government? That's a true abuse. That's what the founders were talking about, is standing up. And sometimes you have to stand with your brother and your sister with whom you might not agree on every issue. So I'm excited to see a whole lot of people out there on both sides of the abortion issue that are going to stand shoulder to shoulder against the government and in defense of choice, in defense of the right to choose what's best for your child when it comes to their own medical care. I hope that I'm going to see you out there. If you're planning to go and planning to board one of those buses, or you have a question, by the way, I just put up a Facebook post to update. It includes the email. But if you're thinking about hopping on a bus, or you're taking one of the buses, give us a call at 323-746-TALK. I'd love to hear what was it that motivated you to actually take action, because that's a big step, and it's a little scary. I mean, I have to admit, I'm kind of nervous getting on a bus load with 53 people or 52 people that I don't know, because I know a handful that are going. it takes you out of your comfort zone a little bit. But to me, it is for a good cause. It is. Besides that, I love meeting people that have finally decided to get involved and take action. That encourages me. That lights me up like nothing else. And anyway, 323-746-8255. If you're having any thoughts about taking one of the buses. And by the way, there are buses leaving from San Diego, Orange County, Inland Empire, and Los Angeles. And according to Heather, there is a little bit of room on each bus. So that means if you act now and send her an email, you could confirm. And you need to send her your full name and your commitment that you're going and what stop you're going to get on. And you can just send her an email at CCHC rally@gmail.com. Hey, did you see this? Did you see this post on Marco Rubio? The New York Times hired a couple of reporters, 2 reporters, to do a full-time investigation of Marco Rubio. And I was like, wow, what's the Marco Rubio scandal? And this guy is, not only is this guy scandalous, but his wife is even more scandalous. You will not believe what they dug up. You're supposed to say, what? What did they dig up? Jeez. Don't we have cue cards in here? What, does your microphone not work?
Test 1 2.
Yeah, there's the Noskinator. I guess she's back. So, his wife, Jeanette, first of all, Marco Rubio is a bad driver. Well, welcome to America, along with probably half the population. That he was cited 17 times for traffic infractions. This is a major headline in the New York Times, that the paper that has completely ignored Benghazi, completely ignored where 4 Americans were killed, completely ignored the email gate, where Hillary just wiped clean her server, abused her authority, very likely was in violation of the law repeatedly in terms of classified information on a personal server, then lied about it. I mean, if the FBI did an investigation and if she lied to them, it's more serious to lie to the FBI than it is to lie to Congress. So I'm sure she's already lied to Congress, or she told them it just didn't matter. And then we find out that she's taking these so-called legal bribes from all these foreign governments with the Clinton Fraud Foundation. And the New York Times is like, ho-hum, yawn, no big deal. But oh my word, the Rubios don't know how to drive. They are traffic criminals. You know, when you demonize somebody for something this stupid, you actually make them more likable because you humanize them. And Rubio, even though I don't like a lot of his policies, he is youthful. He comes across he's a very attractive individual when he speaks. He has an attractive wife, attractive family. But it's hard to believe that serious journalists who went to journalism school to learn how to do investigative research, their minds get like that brain freeze you get when you eat ice cream too fast. Whenever it comes to anything to do with Hillary, they get brain freeze. But Marco Rubio starts inching up in the polls, and they're going to take that guy down with his traffic violations. You know what? I have to admit, that I've not been a big Marco Rubio fan, but this article and the fact that he has attracted such ire and such a bizarre bank shot from the media, which means they consider him a threat, that makes me like him more. Now, maybe not enough to go for a drive with him out to get a beer, but certainly, well, I guess I would have to drive since I don't drink, but it certainly, can you believe this stuff?
No, but you can't be driving to go get a beer with him anyways, because then you'll turn into their personal driver.
I don't think there's any chance. I am not one of these people that likes to hang around with politicians, even though I spent time inside that building. I am much more excited about the fact that I will be hanging out, hopefully with you, tomorrow at a rally, standing up for freedom. I like being with the people much more than with politicians. So we are going to take a break, and right after this break, we'll take your calls, 323-746-TALK, and we've got Chuck Reed, former San Jose mayor, Democrat, coming up at the top of the hour. Stay tuned. Hey, you've heard me talk over and over again about Burro Canyon Shooting Park, which is arguably the greatest place on the face of the earth to exercise your Second Amendment. But it just got better, because if you mention the Tim Donnelly Show, they'll give you free stuff. You get a free hat, free coffee cup, while supplies last if you mention Tim Donnelly Show. So get out there and get shooting. For directions or more information, call Burro Canyon at 626-910-1344. You are listening to the Radio Free California Network. We stream live at timdonnellyshow.com. Just in case you miss any part of the show, by the way, our stream replays starting immediately after the show. So timdonnellyshow.com, it should be your central source for everything related to the Radio Free California Network and the Tim Donnelly Show. We have on the phone Paul from Newberry Springs. Paul, welcome to the Tim Donnelly Show.
Hi, Tim. I've called you twice before. I really like your show.
Oh, thank you.
I called you because I have a problem with AT&T. I'm a 23-year veteran of the Army. And
well, thank you for your service, first of all.
You're welcome. And so on the 19th of January in the Apple Valley authorized AT&T store, I got a new phone, and they took a photocopy of my retired military ID card and filled out the form for the veterans discount and emailed it and faxed it. And as of the 9th of May, it was still not on, the 9th of April, it still had not reflected in my bill that I had the veterans discount. So I called AT&T, and this lady who sounded like she just was going to help me until this thing got through advised me to go to the AT&T store in Barstow, and a man named Brent would resend this. So I took in everything I had from the store in Apple Valley Brent was arrogant and condescending and obviously had no interest in helping me. But he took a photograph of that and said, I will fax this in. As of today, I still don't have the AT&T Veterans discount. And so now I'm going public, which is why I'm calling you. And I called Fox News 2 times this morning and left a message for them asking, are you interested in a veteran being basically seated out of the veterans discount with AT&T? So that's why I'm calling. I'm taking the thing public. And,
Paul, I appreciate your call, and I'm going to throw it out there to, I'm sure there are people who work for AT&T who listen to this show, and I would just say, hey, what do you have to say? Paul's a veteran. He served 23 years. You guys offered him a discount. If you weren't going to give him the discount, why offer it? So, Paul, we are grateful for your service, and if we get somebody calling in, we will let you know. I'm going to put you on hold and get your information, actually get the Noskinator, who is a fellow veteran, to take your information down. And if we're able to come up with anything, we'll let you know.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Oh, you got it. Hey, I lost my train of thought. What was I going to talk about? Well, I had something in the queue, in the brain. I think I got a little of that brain freeze. You know what, though? I have a great book sitting here on my desk. And at the end of this week, on Friday, we are going to be interviewing the daughter of and the biographer of Manuel Zamora in a book called Gunsmith to the Stars. So if you are a movie buff, if you are a gun buff, of course, if you love guns and you love movies, of course you'd be listening to the Tim Donnelly Show. You are not going to want to miss that interview. I am reading the book right now, and it is fantastic. It has... It jumps right in. I mean, you can't even make up the beginning of the book. I don't want to tease it too much, but it's definitely chock full of anecdotes about a whole different time. You know, not everything we do here is always simply about the politics of the day. We try to have a story every once in a while that goes beyond the daily barrage of insults out of Sacramento and Washington, D.C. And you know what? When we're up there in Sacramento, I say we go by the governor's office and ask him why he didn't take a shower. I mean, I think that's a threat to public health.
Maybe he used baby wipes.
Oh, jeez. Now you're defending Jerry Brown?
I am not. I'm just saying.
Okay, we're going to have a talk on the break here at the Tim Donnelly Show. Yeah. But coming up after the break, we're going to have a great conversation with Chuck Reed, who is leading the charge in a state dominated and controlled by unions. You won't want to miss it. Stay tuned. Well, hopefully after the citizens surround the Capitol building tomorrow, there'll be some politicians who are hot-blooded. And certainly the efforts of our next guest, former mayor of San Jose, who is also a Democrat and one of the leading voices for some kind of sanity when it comes to public sector pensions that have bankrupted city after city after city in the state of California. We welcome Chuck Reed to the Tim Donnelly Show. Chuck, welcome to the show.
Hi, Tim. Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
I am very happy that you're one of my heroes. I met you at a hearing, and I forget now which committee. I was in so many, but you really took a lot of abuse for standing up for the people of your city and for standing up against the public sector unions that have negotiated unsustainable deals in city after city.
Well, as a big city mayor, I kind of got used to taking abuse. It just came with the territory, but certainly the abuse was intense when we made some changes to pension benefits. Of course, we were facing service delivery insolvency, maybe bankruptcy, so we had to act. That doesn't mean people were happy about it, and they certainly took some of their displeasure out on me, but we did the right thing for the right reasons, and it saved our city from insolvency, and I'm quite proud of the work that we did.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting because you're on air right now in a city that didn't do any of that. The city of San Bernardino, and the son of a friend of mine is a police officer there, and they're outgunned, they're underfunded, they don't even have anywhere near the defensive equipment that they need to acquire, all because the city has not handled their finances right. And there's fewer cops on the street as well. And you made a point there was a Vanity Fair article that my dad sent me years ago, and you were interviewed, and you put the pension crisis in San Jose in such a crystal clear focus that I still remember it. You said that in 20 years, if you guys stayed on the track you were on with the same basic revenues and the same expenditure track without making any changes, that you would go from you had 7,442 employees, you had laid off 2,000, you were down to 5,442, and that 20 years down the road, you would have exactly 2 employees whose job it was to give out checks to people who used to work for the government. You'd have no services whatsoever. No cops, no sanitation, no parks, no library, no nothing.
The math gets very brutal when your expenses are going up faster than your revenues, which was the case in San Jose, and the case has been so many cities around the state. Those costs just keep climbing, and these pension costs and retiree health costs are particularly difficult because there's nothing local government can do about them except continue to pay higher and higher. And of course, bankruptcy is an alternative that some cities have had to face, including San Bernardino, because your costs get out of control. Eventually something will give. And of course, it's usually the taxpayers who suffer the most.
Yeah, absolutely. And you are now actually you're out of office, you're back in private life, but you have not abandoned the people of California, because this is a passion for you to get this right. Because if we don't do something, we don't act, our state is going over a fiscal cliff. It's already on the edge of the fiscal cliff, and they're accelerating the bus. But you've come up with and qualified, if I'm not mistaken, along with Carl DeMaio of San Diego, you've got a ballot initiative qualified that could be on the November 16th ballot. Am I mistaken? The Voter Empowerment Act?
The Voter Empowerment Act is not yet qualified. It's filed, so we're waiting for a title and summary from...
Okay, I jumped the gun on you there then.
Yeah, you jumped us a few months and a few $1 million of effort to get the signatures. But I just want to point out that we have 6 proponents on this measure, and one of those is Pat Morris of San Bernardino, because Pat has seen up close and personal the devastation that comes when your costs get out of control. And I certainly saw it in San Jose, and that's one of the reasons I'm passionate about it. I didn't go into government in order to cut services to the people that are paying the taxes. I went into government to try to make government better. I'm a Democrat. I think there's a role for government, but you need money to do everything that you want to do in government, just practically everything. And when you're putting all your money into retirement benefits, you don't have money left over to do other things that you want to do, like increase the size of your police department. Now, San Jose, we increased the budget for our police department, but we couldn't keep up with the cost, so we ended up having less police officers now than we had a decade ago, even though the budget's way, way up.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I think a lot of people don't get, because being on the receiving end of abuse from the union leadership and their political hitmen, I don't know what else to call them, but the minute anybody says anything that makes sense about the sustainability of contracts that were entered into on behalf of the people, there is no way around it. I mean, either these are obligations that you must pay, and therefore you bankrupt your city in order to meet those obligations, and you screw all the taxpayers of that city and all the residents. It doesn't even matter if you're a taxpayer, because if you don't have enough cops to keep crime under control, then everybody is at risk. And it's not just cops, it's sanitation, it's keeping the streets paved, it's libraries and public parks, the things that make a city livable, all have to be cut if you can't get this massive, it's kind of like a debt burden, isn't it, to a household?
It is very much like a debt burden to a household, because you got to pay the debt. It keeps going up. Unfortunately, it's not a fixed debt. It can go up and has gone up and will continue to go up. But across California, the actual dollars paid for pension benefits went from $6 billion a year to $17 billion a year in a decade. So yeah, it just takes more and more money out of the budget, same as your household. If your expenses are going up and your pay is not going up, you're going to have to cut, and that's what has happened all over the state. This is called crowding out.
And tell us what your the Voter Empowerment Act would do if it were to get on the November 2016 ballot. If you get enough signatures, which of course our audience can help with, what do the people get in return? What kind of protections are there, and what does it actually do?
First, the act empowers the voters, guarantees the voters a right to have a say on compensation and benefits for the government workers. We've been denied this right multiple times around the state, so fundamentally we're going to guarantee that right. Second, it requires voter approval if you want to enhance the benefits of current employees, because we know that so many backroom deals have been done to sweeten the benefits, and the public doesn't even know about it until they get the bill, that the voters ought to have a right as a check and balance on the elected officials. And then the other thing it does says for new employees, if you're going to put your new employees into one of these really expensive defined benefit plans, you got to get voter approval for that. And you have to get voter approval if the government are going to pay more than half of the cost of those retirement benefits. So those are the basic provisions. A simple idea to let the people decide, since the people are going to do a much better job of looking out for the taxpayers than the elected officials have done. The voters have a right to do all kinds of other things. This is another form of debt, and the voters ought to be able to approve or disapprove these huge debt increases.
And what do you think your chances are of getting it on the ballot? What kind of funding do you have so far, and what are your prospects?
We have not begun accepting money for the signature gathering phase or the campaign phase. We've been focused on doing the lawyering and the polling, the policy work in order to get to the point that we have where we can file it. And now we'll go back and talk to people that have been willing to support us and talk about funding a signature gathering. When we do that, we'll form a campaign committee, and all that money that comes in will be duly reported in accordance with California law. But it'll take a couple of $1 million probably to gather the signatures. We know that the public employee unions are going to fight tooth and nail. They have every other reasonable modification. And so we have to be prepared for a tough road gathering signatures. But we know that once we're on the ballot, there's strong voter support for these reasonable kinds of pension reforms that will help save cities from insolvency.
Now, what is your threshold of signatures? Because I read in the San Jose Mercury News that it was 560,000. But that seems high because isn't it based on the last gubernatorial election?
It is. This will be a constitutional amendment, so we have a little higher than a statutory initiative. So it's somewhere between 565 and 585,000. Of course, that's good signatures. You got to collect quite a few more signatures in order to make sure that you have enough to meet the random sampling to show that you've got enough good signatures. So we'll be collecting well over 600,000 signatures when we get into it.
Okay. And do you guys have a website where people can find more information?
We have not updated our website. We had a website from our 2014 effort, and so we're still in the phase of trying to get all this together.
Okay. Well, we'll keep our listeners posted because this is definitely an issue of great interest. And interestingly, it is one of the most bipartisan issues that I have ever seen, because it's just strictly about fiscal accountability and striking a balance between that which you're giving to compensate employees and that which you're taking from the taxpayers.
It is a bipartisan effort. The 6 proponents, we've got 4 Democrats and 2 Republicans as proponents. We've done polling, so we know that this is supported by Republicans, Democrats, Independents. That turnout is this is going to prompt some kind of a different kind of turnout. It doesn't really matter because the people who turn out are supportive of it. So if we have it on a presidential election, if we get the surge of young voters coming out, that's actually good because young voters understand they're the ones who are going to get stuck with this bill if we don't do something about it.
Well, that's true. And Chuck, thank you. We're talking with Chuck Reed, former San Jose mayor, who is leading the charge along with a number of other proponents to get some real pension reform that would help save California and California cities from fiscal disaster. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you got it. Godspeed. 323-746-TALK. We'll take your calls right after this.
A dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
Paying attention. Hey, we are going to be in Sacramento tomorrow, and I had a thought. It was so hard. Wasn't it hard last week to give out a $10 gift certificate to In-N-Out Burger?
Because the question was apparently ridiculously hard.
It was a riddle. It was not
the
a question.
riddle.
So we thought we would make it a little bit easier, and we would like to give out 2 gift certificates. Now, one, yes, I know, but here's the deal. You have to be doing one of 2 things. Either getting on the bus, and it doesn't matter which bus. We'll give it to you when we get there. You'll just have to find us. So the first person who can call in and tell us, hey, I am riding on one of the buses, one of the 4 buses out of Southern California, and I am going to Sacramento. Our number, which you should already have plugged into your phone, 323-746-TALK, 323-746-8255. Now, that's an easy one. There's not even a question attached to it. But the hard one is going to be, well, I'm going to have a question. And the question is very simple. What is the single most effective antidote that the government could put in place? What is the single most effective way that the government could raise wages of employees right now who are advocating for the minimum wage? What's the single most effective way that the government could take an action that would result in wages going up? Simple as that. 323-746-TALK. And I know that someone out there knows the answer to that. It is as obvious as the question last week. And I am looking forward to giving out 2 gift certificates to In-N-Out Burger. One, you simply have to be riding on one of the buses going to the rally tomorrow. If you're the first one to call in, we will take your calls either now or just after the break. And the number is, what's the number again?
Our number is 323-746-8255.
Did you have to look that up?
Just to make sure.
Yeah, for those of you who are thinking about voting for Hillary Clinton or Jeb Bush, we'll say it one more time, 323-746-TALK, 323-746-8255, and we will take your calls coming up after the break. But for now, well, I guess for now we will take a quick call. You are live on air. Welcome to the Tim Donnelly Show. Hello? I guess they got nervous. Which, sometimes that happens. Sometimes when you realize that you're going to be talking and millions of people could potentially be listening. Do you think I'm overstating our audience a little bit?
Oh, no.
Anyway, yeah, that we'll get to you guys after the break. But meanwhile, in California, Jerry Brown did not take a shower this morning. I hope he takes a shower tomorrow when thousands of Californians plan to converge on the state legislature and surround the building and go in and testify before the only committee in which this bill is going to be heard, which is the Health Committee. Strange that they heard it in 3 committees when it was in the Senate. They had larger crowds than they had ever had for any other bill pretty much in the history of the legislature, at least as long as anybody could remember for the last 15 or 20 years. And I think on the Assembly side, they said, we don't want that much abuse. We don't actually want to hear from you. And they tried to jam this through at the first available moment that they could in June. But thankfully, there are over 20 groups that formed a coalition. And, if you are part of that, if you're planning to go ahead and give us a call. You may be able to win a $10 gift certificate. Yeah, you could get a free lunch. They do have, just so you know, they do have In-N-Out Burgers in Sacramento. There's cheering going on in the production booth, but I can personally attest to it. 323-746-TALK. We'll take your calls after the break. If you've been listening long to the Tim Donnelly Show, you know that we talk constantly about defending freedom and about defending our natural inalienable rights. The Firearms Policy Coalition is a partner of the Tim Donnelly Show. But more than that, they're on the front lines every day in Sacramento and all across the state, in the courts, defending your Second Amendment right. That is a natural right that the government merely acknowledged in the Second Amendment. If you value your freedom, then you need to join Firearms Policy Coalition. Become a member. I'm a member, and I'm happy to support an organization that is doing such an incredible job. Go to joinfpc.org. The Tim Donnelly Show sent you. Or go to timdonnellyshow.com and click on the FPC link to make it easy. But whatever you do, join today. FPC.org. Welcome back to the Radio Free California Network. I am your host, former California State Assemblyman Tim Donnelly, soon to be back in the Capitol, but not in any official capacity other than to be looking out for you. We got your back. We're going to get to the bottom of the insanity coming out of the Capitol. Last week, we put forth a riddle, and it was a really good riddle because it was riddled with wrong answers that were very intelligent, and it made plain the fact that our listening audience, the audience of the Radio Free California Network, is paying attention. And there was one person who was paying a little more attention than everyone else. As a matter of fact, when I talked to Denise after the show last Friday, after her victory, just in the nick of time, because we were going to run the clock out and I was going to have to give you the answer, she said that she had been scouring Google looking for the worst headlines out of Sacramento in the last 30 days. And her husband was like, "What are you doing? You're obsessed. You're continually reading news reports and day and night." And because I asked her, I said, "Did you just figure it out at the last minute?" No, she had been through a tremendous amount of reading. And so she is the winner of that contest. But we're going to do a new one. It's real simple. If you are riding the bus from Southern California and you would like a free lunch while you're in Sacramento, all you have to do is call us. You don't have to know anything. You don't have to be smart or good looking, even though you probably are. 323-746-TALK, 323-746-8255. And if we're not able to give one away here, we will give it away up in Sacramento to somebody that actually came to the rally. But I'm going to give out a second one. And there's a simple question that I want to know. I know that many of you, since the breaking news about $13 an hour minimum wage statewide, $15 an hour minimum wage in the city of Los Angeles, many of you have thought, why does the government have to come in and be a bully to small business owners? Because everybody with a brain knows that the net effect of the government forcing up costs without a market-based commensurate increase to offset those costs. It's not like you can charge more for your pizza because you're charging more for labor, because you're competing with people who might be right outside of that Los Angeles line. And if they're right outside of that Los Angeles line and you're paying $15 an hour and they're not, it's going to be really difficult to be competitive. So what I want to know is, what is the single simplest, most dramatic action that the government can take that would immediately drive up wages for jobs that are considered to be low skilled, jobs that are considered to be minimum wage, or entry-level jobs? Let's call them entry-level jobs. What's the single quickest way, single most impactful way that the government, with one simple action, could completely transform life for those who are struggling at entry-level jobs? 323-746-TALK, 323-746-TALK, if you think you know the answer. And if not, if we don't get any calls, I'm going to update you on Obama trade. You know, have you noticed that the Obama trade story keeps growing and growing? It seems to be a new headline every day. And now there's a freshman GOP congresswoman, whom I happen to know, by the way, Representative Mimi Walters out of Orange County, who appeared on Monday on Morning Joe on MSNBC. And when her office was queried as to whether or not she had actually gone to the underground basement to read the proposal that she's out there shilling for, she's shilling for Speaker Representative John Boehner, her staff admitted she hadn't gone there and she hadn't read it. So my question is, what are we doing with, what difference does it make whether you have a Republican in office who says vote for this, and once you vote for it, then you can know what's in it, or whether it's Nancy Pelosi? Does it make any difference? Because to me, it seems like it's exactly the same thing. It's a representative who isn't doing their job. It's a representative who doesn't really care what's in it. They were told to push it. Why are the Republicans granting unprecedented powers to strike trade deals to a guy they don't trust, and to a guy that they clearly has indicated he has no idea how to make a trade deal? I think he's used to making his deals on the golf course, not sitting down and negotiating back and forth. The deal that he was offering and bragging about with Iran guarantees Iran's going to get a nuclear weapon within a decade. And if that happens, then the Saudis are going to get a nuclear weapon, and the Jordanians and all these other countries are going to become nuclear powers, countries that would like to wipe out America because they consider it to be the great Satan. So I really do not understand, and we have yet to be able to get a single Republican to actually agree to come on air and discuss this trade bill. And the information that we've read about it, this is global governance. This is granting extraordinary powers. You think having one unelected board in California, not one, but one of the most damaging, like CARB, the California Air Resources Board, you think having an unelected board at the state level, you just wait. You turn this into a treaty that we have to honor as a nation, and now you'll have all those federal armed agents of the federal government coming in to make sure you comply. We're going to create a whole new industry for lawyers to sue the government where the deep pockets are. We could save California from the bankruptcy of of unions, public sector unions that have struck deals that are completely unsustainable, that we were talking about previously with Chuck Reed, the former mayor of San Jose. So we could get that on the ballot and save California taxpayers and save our state and get it back on track. And next thing you know, we could empower foreign entities to sue our local governments. And they're never suing the government. They're suing you. Why in the world would we want to let foreigners come in and sue us? That doesn't make any sense. I don't see how that could possibly be in the interest of the United States or in the interest of any state in the union. And because of that, if you're going to have a trade deal, what are you so afraid of? Are you afraid that people won't like it? Are you afraid that people won't support it? Are you afraid that it's going to be unpopular? Well, it's our right to know, because we're the ones who are going to have to live with the consequences. You won't, because you'll probably still be working for the government. You'll probably still have a better pension and paycheck than most Americans. So you don't really care. And as a matter of fact, if you own a business, then you're probably voting for this because it's going to help you stay in the 1%. Well, we are going to continue to inform you about the hidden provisions of this Obama trade deal, and we're going to continue to hammer the Republicans who are supporting it. And eventually, hopefully, before it becomes a deal that is struck, we're going to get somebody on to explain why the Republicans are so hell-bent on giving Barack Obama, whom they completely don't trust, so much unchecked power by giving up your place at the table in something as important as this massive trade deal that will cover pretty much 80% of the world's economy. 323-746-TALK if you want to talk about that or anything else. 323-746-8255. Hey, if you find yourself in my hometown of Twin Peaks, don't leave without stopping by the grill at the Antlers Inn. It's right in the heart of Twin Peaks. They serve dinner every night. They're right there at Highway 189 and Bear Springs Road. They have the best steaks, the best sushi. No matter what you have, make sure you call ahead for a reservation. 909-336-2600. 909-336-2600. And tell them Tim Donnelly sent you. If you're just tuning in to the Radio Free California Network, shame on you. We have been at it for hours, but you know what? You don't have to miss out. Just go to timdonnellyshow.com, timdonnellyshow.com, and click on previous shows, and you can catch up on all our previous shows, or you can click on the live 24/7 link. And immediately after this broadcast, our show will begin transmitting all over again. So for those of you driving home right now who have been working and might want to tune in later, you are in luck. You know, I was talking to the Noskinator on the break, and I'm wondering, do you think that question was too hard, or do you think we just wore the audience out?
I don't think it was too hard at all.
Right. So if you want to win this week's contest, and just imagine if we could give away 2 gift certificates in one day versus one that took an entire week. It's a simple question. We have all these minimum wage proposals. And my question is very direct, right at the heart of this whole issue, which is, what's the single most effective way that if the government took this action, it would result in rising wages for entry-level workers? 323-746-TALK. 323-746.
8255.
I'm glad you know the phone number. Yeah, so if you think you know, venture a guess. We will be traveling up to Sacramento late tonight, getting there first thing in the morning, and there is a bill, surprisingly, out of Sacramento that I kind of like. It is called SB 149. It is known as the Right to Try bill, and it is put forth by Senator Jeff Stone, Republican of Riverside County. And this bill would give terminally ill Californians greater access to experimental medications. And it looks like we have somebody calling in. Let me take the call and I'll get back to this. Hey, welcome to the Tim Donnelly Show.
Hi, Tim. This is Deborah from North Edwards, and I'd like to respond to the question about raising wages, what the government can do.
Sure, yeah. What can we do?
Close the border.
Oh, my gosh. You know what? I was hoping to stretch this out for an entire week, but I underestimated the intelligence of our audience. So, where are you calling from?
North Edwards.
North Edwards. Well, you... where's the bell? Do you have the bell? Just wait a second, because you there you go. You are in the winner's circle. And tell me your name again.
Winner, chicken dinner.
Tell me your name again.
Okay. Pardon?
Oh, just give me your first name.
Deborah.
Deborah from North Edwards. You are the winner. And it is obvious, isn't it? That if you actually secured the border and enforced our laws against employers who right now are enjoying modern-day indentured servants who will work in unbearable conditions because they can't complain because they're afraid of being deported, even though we don't deport anyone anymore. But all these guys who support more handouts to illegals just want to steal money from the business owners and transfer it to people that they hope will vote for them. It's stealing from the people who create jobs in this state in order to win votes for the people who destroy jobs in this state.
That's right.
Simple as that. Well, Deborah, thank you for calling in. And how long have you been listening to the show?
Oh, since the beginning. I've been a big fan of yours since way before the gubernatorial race.
Well, I am now a big fan of yours for getting this answer right on the first try, first call. And I'm very grateful for your call and for your support. And we will call you right back after the show. So I'm going to let you go. And
okay.
But congratulations.
Thank you.
You got it. Well, there you have it. I guess my faith, once again, in humanity has been restored. And we have one shot, one kill. Deborah from North Edwards which is, of course, North Edwards Air Force Base. To those of you considering voting for either Hillary Clinton or Jeb Bush, hey, if you're planning on boarding one of those buses tonight, if you haven't made up your mind, look, it's $20. You're going to get a ride all the way up and back. cchcrally@gmail.com. Make sure that you get your name on the list. I don't do this show alone, so I need to say thank you to my wife for letting me, to Bethany Nosko, the Noskinator, for being an extraordinary producer, to Cassie Cassidy, the intrepid guest booker, and John and Sean, who make everything technological work. They're wizards. And also Casper, who's here today. And you, the listener. Without you, we don't have a show. God bless you. Godspeed. Tim Donnelly Show out. Hey, if you like what you've been hearing on the Tim Donnelly Show, then support it. If you own a business, we have a tremendous audience, not only on air, but also online. And we've got a great social media presence, and you can participate in all of that by simply picking up the phone and calling 760-244-4444. That's the office line to Bethany, who can schedule you to come in and record your own commercial, or you can send us a script and I'll read it. Whatever you do, you got to act now, because your future customers are my loyal listeners. Hey, you've heard me talk over and over again about Burro Canyon Shooting Park, which is arguably the greatest place on the face of the earth to exercise your Second Amendment. But it just got better, because if you mention the Tim Donnelly Show, they'll give you free stuff. You get a free hat, free coffee cup, while supplies last, if you mention Tim Donnelly Show. So get out there and get shooting. For directions or more information, call Burro Canyon at 626-910-1344.